Hi there, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to another ENFP male interview. Today, I get to interview Jaxson. So, Jaxson, welcome, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, dude. So can you tell us your full type, please?
ESFP, and so that's audio, SEFI, consume, play, blast, sleep.
All right, and then what did you think, and how did you feel when you got your results back?
I was kind of shocked. I did not see that coming. Didn't see FI at all. Thought I was a decider. So I thought I was audio TISE, consume, sleep, play, blast. So I thought I was sleep savior. So I was all turned around when I got it.
Uh, Now, since that you found out that you have FI, how do you feel about that?
It's kind of ironic. My FI was like turned against itself. Like I didn't really like FI in the sense of like respecting it as a savior. Other people, I always thought like, okay, it's a volatile function because it's so subjective, right? And I thought it kind of made me scared of it, but I guess it's just scared of itself. So when I found out I have it as a savior too, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a feeler, I'm an SF. Like it just kind of flipped me all upside down, you know?
Well, I mean, you're kind of like in the middle because you're double activated extrovert thinking also, right? So it's
Hmm.
you're not quite
Hmm.
like pure FI. You're
Yeah,
like a mix. You're like
yeah,
51,
yeah.
49 or something.
And it's the only thing that activated. It's considered because of the sleep last. So
Right, right.
yeah.
Well, why don't we talk about your um, FI first, since we're already on this topic. You have masculine introvert feeling, and you have it in a savior state mainly because of your consume. Um, so we're gonna talk about your consume and your FI, and you have double masculine SF consume. So when it comes to consuming, you're double masculine. So how do you personally experience double masculine SF consume?
Uh, Being that I've been thinking about it for the last few days, I've been like trying to see how it comes into play, and I think uh, I'm just like whatever I want in a given moment, like I have to have it then. And it's as a kid, I think it really made it difficult for me because you can't always have what you want in any given moment as a child. But then as I got older, I was like, all right, well now I can call the shots for myself. So anything I want to do or want, I'm just gonna go out there and get it. And I think it can make me a little greedy too, because for any subjective reason, I can be like, you know what, I want this, I want that, I want this. And uh it's like, they talk about Jeff Bezos, how he's masculine consumed, and he just like, I want Amazon to be so well encompassed. And I want this, and I want that, and it's all under my control. And the whole control thing comes into play. So I think for me, it's kind of made it difficult in some aspects. I can't like deny it in some ways because it's masculine FI, right? So it's like I can't even shake the feeling. So I'm working on that. Yeah.
Can you talk about what it feels like when you see something that you really want, like you want to buy something or you want to
Mhm.
watch something, and you shouldn't like there's a part of you that knows you shouldn't,
Mhm.
but because it's your first animal and it's a savior state, um double masculine, it's like almost uncontrollable, so you're always having like this inner battle with yourself. Can you talk about that feeling?
Yeah. It's almost visceral. Like, which I think it depending on what it is and how much I want it. Like, or it's just like kind of takes over me. Like it's kind of clouding my mind in a way. And especially being SC, it's like I'm not thinking about the future or what's coming. I'm just like this moment right now. I have to have this thing, and I'll like kind of go through any lengths I can to like get it. And it's so funny. Uh, and being like I'm sleep last, I'm also not like taking the time to process or to slow down. It's just like full speed ahead. This is the thing I'm getting until I get it. And it's kind of run the gamut over all areas of my life, from the small things like what food I want to what shows I want to watch to like things, buying things, to my businesses, to relationships. Like it's all encompassing. So it's really taken over my life, I think.
Now, when you want something badly and then you get it, usually after you have it, it doesn't feel that great. Like it doesn't, like, the anticipation of getting it is not the same feeling as like when you already have it. So can you talk about, like, yes, you've been obsessing over something and then you finally have it. Like, what usually happens? Like, how do you feel once you have it already? Like, do you want the next big thing, or like
Yeah,
can you appreciate that thing that you got?
I unfortunately do. It's very quick and fleeting. And I think the sleep last kind of exacerbates it because it's like right after I get it, I'm not taking any time. I'm like, all right, that was cool. And I kind of like, as I got older, I was like, that's a problem. Like, I think especially when it comes to like things that are more intimate, or that took longer to get. And after I got it, I'm just like, all right, well, there's no celebration. Like you know, it's one of those things where you learn like the buildup of it is the part that you're freaking out about. Even in your brain, that's how it works. And the dopamine's about that part. And after you get it, it's just like, all right, reward's gone. So I've been jumping from many things throughout my life that has got me into trouble, I think. It's kind of difficult.
Now, even though your sleep lasts, I'm pretty sure that even though you are obsessive when it comes to gathering, and there are many times that yes, you gathered something, and that feeling of happiness that you get from getting it goes away really quickly. There must be a time when you did get something and you did really appreciate it. Maybe it didn't happen right away. Maybe it happened like, a few months later, but then, you kind of came back to it. You're like, wow, I really appreciate I got this, or I really appreciate I worked really hard to achieve this, like, can you talk about like when that happened, when you did have like a deeper sense of appreciation for something, even though it didn't happen right away?
Yeah. Usually that was like with my bigger things, like when I started like rewarding myself, like getting my first like big car that I was happy about. And then like I'm just in the process of buying a home. Well, I technically got it, but like I'm in the process of like getting everything in it and doing all that stuff. And that was like a long time because I had to be patient with my money and with like being like it just took so long. It took so long. It felt like forever. When you get it, you're like, all right, finally I'm here. And it's one of the things where it's finally sunk in. I'm like, you know what? Like, this isn't a moment that I'm going to forget. Like, I'm really satisfied with this. And it just was like, especially the car thing, I think, because it was like I got my dream car. I don't know. I don't like that term really, like dream anything, but like, it was like something I really felt like, I'm really glad I earned this and it was worth it. Forget just the process. But yeah.
Gotcha. So in a way, it's almost as if that you actually have more appreciation for the effort it took you to get there than when you actually have it,
Yeah, because you get used to anything, and I've kind of learned that lesson younger. Is like after I would get things that I would like maybe beg my parents for when I was a kid, and after I got it, I'm just like, all right, well, now what? I'm like, can I have this? And like you worked, you did all this time begging and asking for this thing, and now that we gave it to you, you're just like unappreciative. And I'm like, no, I appreciate it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So, now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, like prepare yourself. It's not the thing you want. It's just the desire and the process of this wanting. And so like when you get it, show appreciation for it continuously. So it's like now I'm consciously trying to.
Right. Well, I'm a fellow EP, so I can relate to that feeling of. I think what we're really chasing is that dopamine high.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up, because even if you know that's what you're after, you still can't stop it. It's almost like
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a sucker for that dopamine hit, and in no more ways than one in my life. So yeah.
Let's talk about the masculine extrovert sensing. The way they describe it is it's like punchy. So do you like to smash things?
I love smashing things. Actually, it's one of my favorite things. Which is funny to say, but like no, um, even when I'm not physically doing it in my head, I'm like thinking about doing it to quell the feeling. Like that's why I did contact sports for most of my life. Not usually for school, but like I had to do like UFC and martial arts for like the first most of my life, so that I could like get this out of my system of like just constantly punching. And I got into fights a lot, so like I always loved that, getting into that whole arena. You know.
Right. It's kind of interesting because you like to, hit things and destroy things, but you're feminine DE, right? So you're feminine with a tribe. So how does that work? Because like
Yeah.
you're kind of friendly with people, but then you
Mhm.
also like to destroy things. So like,
Yeah, it was just never personal, It felt like I was just kicking the tires on my abilities type thing. Like I'm not looking at the person like I want to hurt you. It's more like whoever just lines up, whatever shadowy figure just gets in the way of whatever, that'll give me the jurisdiction to now just try. And afterward, I'm like, hey, we're always made friends after the fight, which is funny part. Like I was like, hey man, I was just had to let that out, but no hard feelings, right? Like I didn't mean to hurt you. And that's why UFC was actually kind of a hard thing for me, because I'm like I have to get into like a very demon mode, I guess, or beastly mentality. And like same thing with Mike Tyson, you see him like he gets very into it, and it didn't make me feel good because I'm like I'm hurting people, and I don't really want to hurt you type thing. So it was kind of a conflict.
The UFC thing, you said you fought in the UFC? Is that what you're saying?
Not like well, I was working my way up, and
Okay.
then I was training my buddy who was, I think he had more potential than I did, because of like, I was like, well, the OE hard to narrow down. I had so many ideas of what I really want my life to be, and I was thinking about the after effects of getting CTE and like having the damaged effects. Like any fighter who's great is going to have those hard effects later in life. It just happens. And I was like, this is really the route I want to go. So when I decided it wasn't, I started training my friend, and I kind of just separated. So that was around like the end of high school, actually.
When you were doing the MMA stuff, were you what kind of fighter were you? Were you like the all around, or were you more like a striker, or were you like a grappler? Or
I love striking because I love just dancing around. I like to, just to kind of keep my balance, keep my feet, keep my looks around. And I don't know, like just it's grappling. It's one of those things where for me it was a demon. Like I hate being kind of like choked or restrained. It's the whole maybe it's a don't control me thing. I don't know, but I hate feeling constrained. And grappling is mostly that. So, and you get so exhausted just doing it. So I was like, if I can just stay on my feet and keep my energy up and all that stuff, I'd be better. It was just kind of, but I forced myself to learn how to be better at it because I knew I would not do well in a fight.
right? I guess you just need to have good takedown defense so you can stay standing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting. I was interviewing someone who I think he had a talk with Dave about this, and I think Dave said something like strikers are usually extrovert sensors and grapplers are usually introvert sensing, which makes sense because introvert sensing likes to control the physical. So like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever, right?
Right.
So for me, when I did a little bit of MMA before, and I was so bad at striking, like
Really?
yeah, I was so bad. Like
Huh.
I got kicked in the face and I stopped going. But like you know,
It happens. It happens.
yeah. But I remember
Yeah.
I was really good at grappling. Like it was almost it was one sided. Like the striking, I was so horrible. Like I was like a blue belt and I was fighting white belts and they would beat me in striking because it was so bad. Like but like
Right.
my grappling was so good because it's SI that I can beat black belts.
Wow.
So I was like,
Wow.
so it was weird, but like I mean maybe this martial arts place wasn't very good. I don't know. I mean,
Mm.
maybe the fighters weren't very good, but like so
Mm.
I just thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, huh, I didn't know that like SI people preferred one thing and SE people preferred the other.
Yeah, it makes sense. Grappling is a lot more about just technique and procedure than it is about like momentary decisions and whatnot, in the sense of like trying to judge someone else's whatever. So it makes sense SI would be better at it, I think.
Yeah. Although like one of the best grappler out there is extrovert sensor,
Hmm.
GSP is really good
Hmm.
at wrestling and he's,
Hmm.
an INFJ, right? So
Yeah. He's great at it, which is strange. You think Demon SC, like you must have really put in the work. Uh,
apparently he was a natural at it. Like, you know,
hmm. Is he masculine sensing though too, right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I
But it's
mean,
fourth. It's fourth.
still it's fourth. Yeah, I don't know. He's just to get to the level he is, it just takes so much training for anybody, but especially for a demon SC or a demon sensing person. That's so interesting to see them get to that level.
Yeah. Well, I feel like maybe some people are just like naturally talented at certain stuff, like Anderson Silva can do grappling and striking. John Jones can do both. So, like there's
Mhm.
people who are just born with like they're good at all that stuff. So
Yeah, man, they really are.
Um, let's talk about your ST now. Your ST is play. You are double activated ST play.
Mhm.
How do you personally experience that? Like, because ST is kind of like block bagging, which means you're getting things done in
Mhm.
real life. It's not abstract,
Mhm.
it's real. Like you, for example, like construction or whatever. And
Mhm.
because it's play, it's done in a collaborative mode. Like you do it with people. So
Mhm.
can you talk about how you personally use ST play?
Yeah. For the longest, I thought it was TISC. So I was like, I'm an ST block banger, right? But I didn't realize just how much I was using it because it's play, right? So, um, well, the way it's amassed of my life is anything, that I don't know, considering I'm consume play blast, I'll just go bang on the tribe for, hey, how did you figure this out? How did you do the thing? You know? And that's been like, I've never been shy to do that. And so like, I think being consumerly has helped this ST play because I'm like, I'll take in everything. Like, even if it's not useful to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, that tool and that tool. And it makes it really easy to see the kind of like the baseline of what's effective and what's not to get to my goal or whatever it is. And it starts, helping my SF consume because I'm just like, all right, I'll need to go learn this. I think about like the Bruce Wayne approach of like he's Batman. So he was like, I want to be good at everything across the board for any situation. So I'll just go learn that here and I'll go do that there. So over the course of my life, I've been like, okay, I want to get good at these things for this, business really has been the forefront of my life. So it's kind of forced me to be like, okay, you need to do this and do rather that. And even when I'm just casually having fun, because literally playing, like being info dominant, I'm like, what can I learn from this situation? What's the lesson here? Like, let me tell you. So what has it been like? All of a sudden I'm interviewing people, but it's just really been an advantage, I think.
What kind of business are you doing?
It's a few of them, but like to narrow it down, we'll just say trade deals, real estate, and engineering. So that's the forefront of it,
Well, you're definitely an EP because you're like you got your hands in different pockets there.
It's in more pockets than I'm proud to say.
Yeah. Oh, there's more than that, eh? Okay.
Even more, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's interesting that you are self-above tribe because of that double activated play.
Mhm.
Where do you see the line where you are doing stuff for yourself, so you're acting selfishly, versus when you're helping others? Because you're like almost like right in the middle, based on your type.
Yeah, I think because at the end of the day, anything I'm doing is about my end goal or whatever I'm going after. So even though I'm like, maybe I'm helping the tribe in the forefront, or maybe I'm like doing what it seems to be a selfless act. Obviously, some of it's the integrity of who I am as a person. I'm like, okay, I should do this. But part of me is just like, I would much rather be doing what I want to do. But so it's like, it's still a learned behavior. And so like, I don't know, it's like I have to like juggle it in a way, especially in social dynamics where people can't see that I'm doing it for my own whatever. I have to make it seem like, oh, this is your idea, right? Like you wanted to go do this, you wanted to go here, right? And then with TE, it makes it so much easier to know everyone's thinking, so I can just kind of like maneuver or manipulate. Unfortunately, that is the word I guess was more appropriate to use, even though I don't have any malevolent intent, to get everyone to kind of go along with what I want at the end of the day. So it's still like I'm not doing it for the self of like what unadulterated, like pure DE would be. Is like you guys and you guys only, It's like it's still about me at the end of the day. Which is like, and I thought I was an IP, so I thought it was way more about me than it really is apparently, but
Yeah.
I do balance it.
Well, I guess if you are helping someone, it's because you like that person too. So it's kind of still for you because you get to hang out with like a friend and whatnot.
Yeah. There's definitely a dive when I really don't want to do something for someone else,
Yeah. And I guess because you're a double decider, you always strive for win-win. And,
I hate that phrase because in business, whenever you hear someone say win-win, it's really because they want to get over on you. So I always avoid that particular wording, but it is technically, I'd like it to be the situation that we both come out with an advantageous whatever, which, I don't move my FI, but I can position it in a way that I can still get what I need,
Right.
Mhm.
You have feminine extrovert thinking. Can you talk about that a little bit? So extrovert thinking is like what works for everyone. Some people call it like the MacGyver function because it's really like a band-aid. It's not like a long-term solution, but it's good enough for the time for the moment. So how do you personally experience that feminine extrovert thinking?
It just makes it easier to get to, I don't know, I think it makes it easier, even though I'm not feminine ST, it makes it easier to someone's coming out, I think. Sorry, my mom. Anyway, it makes it easier to I guess balance the situation, like with people when it comes to like I'm trying to figure out how to answer this. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm easier to work with because of it, because I'm not like hard on the reasons. And if anything, I don't like arguing with people about things like that. Like, especially if they're like, you know what, I really feel strongly about this, and I think this is the way it is, and that's it. I'm just like, okay. Like, I'm not changing my mind, but I'm just not gonna like combat you on that. And so I maybe will appear someone who's like, oh, he's just going with the flow type of thing, and inside my FI might be doing other things. But the point, I guess, is that it just makes it easier for me to also get the job done. Like, whatever way we need to do it, let's just do it. As long as the end result is this, I'm cool with that. So I don't really I'm not like pushy on like it has to be done a certain way. I'm just like, hey, I think that can be bad and good in some areas. Bad for me when I'm just like forging any kind of way to work to get the thing done. But I don't know, the FI makes me kind of have to be integral, or in the situation. So
Right. Can you talk about the integrity part of the FI? So with introvert feeling, you have a tendency to want to be authentic at all times. Like you don't want to be fake. I think that's like one of the worst things an FI could ever do is be fake, like at any given situation, you want to be you. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. It can kind of make me a bit of a a little rude sometimes, I think, because in any situation or dynamic where I'm just like, I have to just do what I do. Like when I used to be a server at a restaurant like a few years back, and my bosses would be like, hey, we need you to do this, we need you to do that, we need you to pretend to be this way. And I'm just like, I can't do that. Like, that's just not me. Like, I can't, this is the best that I got, which sees what you get, And they're just like, that's not, like, you're supposed to compromise. And they accepted it because I'm just like, they can tell I'm not gonna move. But it I don't know, like, it's definitely been like even hard for me sometimes to like, all right, I know I need to do this, but I just can't. And I have to like really like push myself to react or do whatever. And to go along with that, like when it counts, it really counts. Like say I'm pushed against the gun and something that's come against who I am as a person. Like I believe in God, I believe in being fair to people, all these things. I read the Bible like like all the day, not all the day, but every day. And like that's something I use as like a nucleus for me to be like, okay, be a good person, strive for you doing that whole phrase of, when no one's looking, who are you still? So like that comes into play because now I can stay true to myself. It can make me a little judgmental, I think, but it's still, I try to double decide by not being too point the fingery with people when it comes to that.
Right. I guess you keep the judgment inside.
Yeah, I do. And I'm just like, hey, point that yourself,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Let's talk about your third animal. It's Blast. It's double feminine NT Blast. How do you experience that? Because you do have it activated, because you can do some of it.
Yeah, that was an interesting one for me. Just learning about that, what really feminine NT was like. And it's just kind of unhinged, I think. It's just, I'm just like, it's like I can't trust what kind of the lane I go into whenever I do experience it. But like my mind just kind of does this, like it feels like any sometimes. I'm just like going in my brain and I'm just like, well, what about this idea? And what about this route? And like, it feels very movable. And usually I just end up using Blast to like get the thing done. Here we go again. Like, all right, I'm like, all right, wake up at 5 a.m., do this and this and that. We have to get this done. And my feminine Blast doesn't want to, like, it doesn't have enough power to move me really, but incorporating it with the game plan of like disciplining myself and like essentially just staying on top of it, then it gets moving. But I'm still kind of figuring that out myself, how double femininity works,
Why don't we break down the parts and see how you relate to each part, okay? So the first part of NT is problem solving and then because yours is Blast, so you're problem solving for other people. So how do you solve problems for other people? And because it's N, the solution is not concrete. It's like an abstract solution,
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't like. I'm very picky and choosy with who I'm solving problems for, unless it's on like a general way. Like, okay, let's do this one thing, and this will be good for everybody, But when it comes to being like more interpersonal situations, I'm just like, all right, well, let's look at your problem holistically. Like, okay, you got these components here that is the problem, and you can do this about it, you can do this about it, you can do this about it. But at the end of the day, it's kind of go up to you. And then I have like I don't want to control anybody, right? Because even though I have Blast, it's feminine, so I'm just very like, well, you could do this, right? And I'm like backing off, like, well, let's see how you can like, oh, maybe whatever works for you. How do you feel about it? So like I'm trying to incorporate it, but like it's really kind of been a problem for me with back to get my business because like I'm the CEO and I have to Blast. But because I have this don't control people, it's still feminine, it's so weak that I think it kind of begins to muddle the relationships between me and the coworkers. And I'm like, well, just consume this and see what you come up with, and they're just like, like especially the more the IJs are just like, can you give me something actually tangible to work with? I'm just like, well, you'll figure it out. But like that's just it's really weak. I'm working on it actually.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about your last animal, which is NF sleep. And we'll go back to the anti-blast again because I think the NI is the big problem here. But let's go with the NF sleep first.
Yeah.
So a lot of people with NF sleep that I've interviewed, they have some kind of mantra or code that they adhere to. Usually it's like a quote or a saying, like Jocko Willing has discipline equals freedom, for example, right? My girlfriend, she's an INTJ. She uses what is it? Discomfort over resentment. So there's different sayings that people with your function stack would have. Usually it's in a form of a quote or a mantra. So how do you have one that you personally like kind of go back to and kind of use whenever you're like in a pickle?
I wouldn't say I have like a specific phrase. Especially being that it's my last one, like I haven't like I kind of like piggyback on Jocko's, being that he's same as me. He's like discipline is freedom, like that really appeals to me. And I more just like tell myself like pain is good. Like that's kind of something I've always used because my FI would get in the way of me accomplishing something sometimes because I'm like I can see now like because I'm feeling a certain way, then that's God, like that's the savior. I can't go against it. And when you're just comforted, you're often in a time of growth, especially if you're like physically trying to push yourself. Like when I weightlifted a lot, and I still maintain or whatever. But when I was serious about it, like I was going through that so much of like having to constantly tell myself like pain is good, stick the course, because I want to jump off and run the thing, whatever. But being resilient in that way has really been, the thing that I kind of revert back to.
So you use a few abstract words throughout this interview, and I kind of want to bring up. So earlier you used the word shadowy figure, or sometimes you would say like, I'll leave it up to God. So your NI is leaving it to the abstract. Can you talk about like you kind of like the abstract is something that you personally don't want to control. It's something that you kind of just want to outsource, if anything,
Yeah, I feel like, the abstract is just like, I don't know, I feel blind, man. Like it's one of those things where I don't even see it until it hits me. And like I'm trying to look for it sometimes, but like my eye view is so narrow that I just can't see it until I'm like encompassed or facing it head on. And there's really been a problem in my life, I think, because if it's NF sleep, so especially talking about sleep again, like NF, where it's very woo-woo, like I don't trust it. I'm just like, I even get annoyed hearing NF sometimes. I'm just like, I don't like, what are you talking about? I can't really understand this. But I don't know, like I'm trying to like create a roadmap for myself in my life. And at times I'm like, it's so abstract. And I'm just like, well, I hope that if I just follow this procedure, put in the work or whatever, that it'll just put itself together. But it's just hard for me to like bang blocks in the NF. There's really nothing there for me to do.
I mean, you're not banging blocks with NF. NF is more like
you're not, but like that's my brain thinks. I gotta bang blocks to get the thing done, but like NF's like not. There's no banging blocks in there, so I'm like, I don't really know how to control the situation.
Right.
It's scary.
Well, there's people who are like your type, like ESFP, like Angelina Jolie. She has an NF savior, and like for her, it's like, she adopted her son from like Cambodia, and she's doing like humanitarian work. So it's like having a deeper meaning in your life, like having a purpose, to make a difference in the world, to make yourself a better person. So it is kind of, I mean, it's not tangible per se, but the result can be tangible. Like you could see the good that comes out of it if you do use it. Like for example, for her, like Angelina Jolie, for example, like she adopted, like, she made Tomb Raider in Cambodia. She ended up adopting a son from Cambodia. Then she ended up becoming like I think official citizen of Cambodia. I think they gave her like a Cambodian citizenship. So she got something tangible out of it, but she was doing like humanitarian work in that area. And then now she has like kids from like different racial backgrounds and stuff. I think she's trying to prove a point, and then she was like on Brad Pitt's ass when he had all this, when he had like all these expensive paintings, and he's like, you could be selling them to because they're both the same type, right? They're both ESFP, consume sleep play Blast, right?
Mhm.
So she's like, you could sell all this painting and you could like be doing something for charity instead, instead of keeping them, right?
Mhm.
So it's like being purposeful with your life. Like you have like meaning, you have purpose, and you're trying to like, you know, achieve whatever it is that.
Yeah.
So let's
Right.
talk about that since we're on that topic. So do you find that yourself struggling with finding meaning and purpose in your life? Because like, yeah, you're getting stuff done, right? But what's the point?
Yeah.
Like NF is what's the
Yeah.
point, right? Like what's the point of doing all this? Like, what do you want?
Yeah. That's a hard one for me because, like, I don't know, because sometimes it's just so fleeting. Like, it comes with like me having to constantly remind myself like why I'm doing it. And even sometimes I'm just like, but do I really want that in the end? And I'm just like, I hope so, like I can't always really see it. So
Yeah.
like a lot of what I'm doing, I'm thinking like, well, this will help other people, so that's good, or like I'm just like if I somehow can align what I want with what's going to help other people, like I'm trying to like narrow it down. So my business will help other people in the end, and that's good, right? I'm like, that's helping, that's enough, my purpose in life. And like being, like I said, a man of God, like my purpose has been aligned with, okay, um be a selfless person. So that's been like my purpose, but like it's still not very, I don't know, like narrowed down completely. Like I think it kind of starts shifting sometimes when I start losing my way. uh and it's just hard for me to see what's going on inside, really.
So when Dave was talking about people who have low NF or low
Mhm.
NIFI specifically,
Yeah.
I think he mentioned a while back that a lot of ESFPs, for example, who have demon sleep.
Hmm.
They have a problem that they're causing in their life that keeps happening over and over again.
Hmm.
And part of that NIFI is like, okay, your self patterns, right? NIFI, like NI's patterns, right? So like
Hmm.
your patterns, your reoccurring life patterns. That means you know what to do moving on forward to stop that bad pattern from happening. I mean, everyone has
Hmm.
good patterns and bad patterns. So what are your bad patterns is what I'm asking. And like, how can you stop those bad patterns from happening? Like, what have you noticed about yourself?
uh I noticed that like I always try to find an excuse to why the situation is going to be different than the last one. So I'll be like, well, I know I'm not necessarily doing what I should be doing by like incrementally in like putting the steps into place to like not have the same result. But I'm just like, well, I feel different. This seems different. I'll just like whatever happens will be. And then I end up in the same position. I'm just like, did you not get the like make the intuitive leap? You know, but specifically, I think like with relationships, I've noticed that one has been like that's one that stuck out of my mind of like dating specifically where I would date the same kind of person over and over again throughout the years, and it kept ending almost the exact same way. And I just kept being like, well, this person's kind of different because this and that, and I'm learned, and maybe I should, you know. And I'm like debating whether or not I should say what the type is because they've been primarily like IPs with that lead FI, and I don't know, I always like that type a little bit, but like after being in a relationship with them, we both can't be that selfish person, and at the same time, like I don't want to get too deep into that, but the point is like I just kept falling into that same trap, and I'm like, Jesus, like make like it stop doing the same thing, or like not being able to keep up a certain routine, and I would like for like a week or two, or like maybe a month even, I'm like sticking to it, and then sooner or later it starts falling apart for some reason, and I'm like, how are we going to counter effect this next time it happens?
Yeah, I feel like in life, everyone gets stuck in a loop, and
Hmm.
you're not gonna get out of the loop until you do something, until you learn from it. Like you need to
Yeah.
learn from it and do something about it. So,
Yeah.
so maybe for you, you're stuck in that loop when it comes to dating. It's like there's something you need to learn, and you're not learning it. So you gotta do it
Yeah.
again. Sleep is like going your known information, right? So if it happened again, and you gotta do it again until you finally learn, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Just gotta like, I don't know. I'm also like one of those persons because I'm double deciding. I think maybe to a fault where I just keep giving people chances, chances, chances. And like in my life with my father, like he was kind of like an antagonistic figure in my life, and that never really changed. I just broke off from him, but like I would just keep like, you know what, next time's gonna be different. Next time gonna be different, and it never was different. And that was really like I think a lesson for me that make me like now like I've been able to narrow down the mistakes that I repeat because of that one being such a big one in my life and learning from that, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Earlier you said that you tend to date the same people too, because I remember I saw a picture of like Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox.
Yeah.
And like all his exes look like Megan Fox in a way. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
she's, you know, oh,
Following
yeah,
that same line. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of dumb. It's, you know, I think it shows up in smaller ways that I just haven't caught on yet. That I'm just like, oh, let me just try this, you know, and then it's like, didn't you do that last time? And I was like, yeah, but, and then you know, same thing happens.
It's funny though. You're saying that you're dating people with lead FI. I feel like you're probably dating IJs because like you're an EP, right?
Maybe.
So EPs are usually dating IJs.
Yeah, usually we are, and I've seen some IJs that I've liked, but like, I don't know, man. Like the people that were like, they were so in their own space. Like, I don't know, I'm pretty good at typing. I can't type myself, but I can type other people like a mug. Like I've been like, somehow I've been locking on to David Chan's whatever. And the people that routinely have been like they're the IP story to hell. And for some reason, I'm just like, even like I think about the ones where I type now, like Aubrey Plaza. Like I would date someone like that. And I love that type. But in theory, it's nice. When you actually are up close and you realize your functions are not compatible always,
Yeah.
then you're just like, oh, like that was a mistake. And I just kept doing that over and over again. But I mean, maybe dating an IJ might be a good idea, like TE, but I don't want to be controlled. So I don't know. They're very controlling, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe you dated someone that's like an NIFI or NITI IJ, you know,
Yeah.
like they're still sub-above tribe, but they're an IJ.
Hey, so, could be. Yeah.
Because like, yeah, from what I can see, usually people end up with someone that is their opposite. It like,
yeah.
When my girlfriend got her type back, Dave's like, "Your Kendrick's opposite." I was like, okay, well.
Oh, there you go.
I should
so there's some supporting math then, right? And like the dating your polar opposite or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I was curious about that. A lot of people have been saying like they don't really think that's a support, like you can support that idea, and so you're, you know,
yeah, like for me, I'm play blast, and then my girlfriend's sleep consumed, so I'm like, okay, and then I'm an EP, she's an IJ, I'm an ENFP, she's an INTJ, so it's like, okay, well, it's you know, the only thing that's not like the complete opposite is like I'm masculine feminine, she's double feminine, so she's not FM, right? But like it's pretty close. So it's like,
right.
But like, even if you look at the animal stack of us, like she has double masculine NF for her first animal. I'm double feminine NT play for my first saver. So my first is double feminine, first is double masculine. So it's like, like we are kind of opposite, you know? So I feel like you usually end up with someone that's your opposite. So, yeah. And
I just feel very, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, one last thing. Earlier you were saying something like, you made it sound like you tend to date people who are like consume sleep or sleep consume, like, you know, that's what
I think there was a few in there. There was like, yeah, there were like one or two sleep consumes or consume sleeps actually, and then the last one was consume play, and she would sleep last, I believe, just judging by like how long we dated. And I was like, huh. And I actually dated TI and that was actually really cool. It was different. I saw where the void was when the Demon FE void really came out, I think, but it was interesting. But like, yeah, I found myself like just on carnally or whatever, maybe not just carnally, but like the idea of it, like I am really attracted to like FM, so visuals with lead TE, masculine or feminine, you know, like, or even if it's not a lead, like it's a savior. I'm always like, those women have been really like just kind of catching my eye, and not always explicably. So, you know,
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Fellow MF.
Yeah.
You like them bitchy.
Yeah. well, I don't know. They always say you date like your, like, it's so weird. They say you date your parents, kind of like whoever you were raised by, kind of you like somehow revert back to that. And my mother's lead TE, but she's not a visual, but she's lead TE. And like for some reason I like TE. Like I don't know. I kind of like it, man. Like Angela from The Office. I kind of like that vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, I like them happy too, but over time, it just that mentality is like we're hitting each other's head. So
that's funny. All right, dude. Let's talk about, since you already brought it up, let's talk about your sexual modalities. Your masculine, feminine, audio, kinesthetic. So you kind of talk about your kinesthetic side already when you were doing the UFC stuff, working out and whatnot. So it's obvious like you like to do things with your hand. But what about sounds and music? Like how do you learn from hearing?
Yeah, like I've been able to really pick up on languages quicker, I think. I was like always curious if that's like an audio thing or not, or like an audio with SC specifically. Like, and I do it by hearing, not like, because I feel like when you're doing it like by writing down and like trying to do all three things at once, your brain's trying to like spread out that energy and like the learning capabilities over like your visual, your audio, you're like saying it, so it's like you're doing all four at once. But like just plugging in your earphones and listening to someone, you know, audibly say the language and repeating it has seemed to really been able to pick up that way. Not to mention, like when I'm listening to music, like my father was really into like music. Like he was a musician slash writer, or whatever. So like I kind of grew up around that dynamic. And so when I'm listening to music, I'm listening like the drums and like the bass and the this and the that. So I'm really picking it apart, and it just kind of adds to my day. Like if I was deaf, I think I'd be so screwed. You know.
Um,
Yeah.
I have a question for you though. So it's when you listen to music, can you hear every word's being said?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. And that's
Okay.
like have an accent, you know.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm only asking because like I noticed that people with high play, when they listen to music, they tend to hear the words, especially if they're auditory. And I noticed that people who are like more like, let's say double feminine or FM, they don't always listen to the lyrics. They kind of let the music move them, you know. So it's a little bit different how people listen to music based on their specific sexual
Okay.
modalities. So for me, I hear all the words. So I don't like, sometimes if I want quiet time to like kind of think, I cannot have music in the background because otherwise I'm gonna get distracted by like the words that they're saying in the music.
Right. Yeah. I have the same problem actually. So instrumentals are better, like or classical or something, because the
Right.
words I'm like picking it apart. Yeah.
Do you feel like though, like when you do listen to music, that your mood can change? Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that. Like if I'm in an FI mood, I want that to be consistent. Like I hate like that's why when I'm listening to music, like sometimes I'm like skip. I'm like it has to be the right one. Especially if like that's why I'm always wary of like negative emotions. I think because having sleep last, like it's always so hard for me to kind of get in there and like navigate and kind of construct it and move it, especially being masculine at FI. So like I'm gonna avoid all sad things because that'll bring me down, and I can't always get out of that so easy. So I'm like upbeat or whatever. So in any situation, it has to fit that mood. So I'll do whatever I can to kind of keep that going. You know.
Okay, so this you brought up something very interesting. That I want to point out.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you don't want to be down, you don't want to be sad, so you try to listen to something upbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling down and feeling sad, those are all part of sleep, and so maybe there's something you're avoiding there. But
Maybe.
I'm calling you out a little bit here. I'm calling you out a little bit, but so
Yeah.
so has there been times though that you did listen to a music and you did get sucked in that like deep dark hole and you kind of welcomed it, you know?
Yeah, I have to like prepare myself for it. For any kind of negative emotional state like that, like even if it's like a movie or whatever, and I'll get upset if I didn't see it coming because I'd be like, oh, now I'm sad, dude. Like this happened over the past weekend. I was watching a movie with my mother, and this ending was sad. Seen the movie before. I knew it was coming, but for some reason I just didn't anticipate actually being affected by it. And I'm like watching it, and it's King Kong, right? So it's the one from like '05. So like he's gonna die at the end. Spoiler alert. But like as I'm watching it, and I'm telling myself in my brain, I'm like, I'm not gonna cry over an animatronic monkey that was never in New York. Like none of this happened. I'm not gonna be moved by this. And I can feel myself slowly just like descending, and I'm like, here it comes, and I started crying, and my mother's crying, and I'm just like pissed off after the movie ends. I'm like, why did I do that to myself? Like now I'm sad for like 4 hours, and I can't freaking move it. But then I notice sometimes like I'll have like a powwow, like Dave talks about like going into the dark room and like putting the music in and just crying and letting it out. I'll have those every couple months. I don't have them that frequent because I just don't want to go down there and have to like empty out the chute or whatever. But I will have those moments sometimes, usually in the shower because it's easier that way.
So you try to avoid negative emotions is what you're trying to say?
I do, like even getting angry. Like if I get angry, I'm like the last 10 minutes and I'm just like, all right, just let out the steam. It's over. Like let's just go back to fun time. Like I hate going down into that. And that's why I was like, I can't be a savior feeler, right? Because they're like equipped to handle the emotions. because it's monetarily activated. So I just like or like yeah. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. But like I can't like I'm just can't go through those waters. So I really try to avoid it at all costs. Since I'm responsible for keeping the state.
It sounds like a sleep last thing than anything, not like an.
I bet it is. I think once I get more comfortable with it, then I'll start combating it.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of you though. I do like negative emotions.
Really?
I'm double masculine.
Mhm.
Sleep, right? So for me, it's like the opposite of you.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, I want to feel bad. Like let's
Yeah. Speaking of like feeling bad, like I had my last FI girlfriend would like send me sad things, and she'd be like, "Oh my god, this is so sad," and I'm like, "Why are you sending it to me for? Like, I don't want to be sad. I'm not looking at that. Like, I can't even watch the news because I'll get like so freaking overwhelmed or like watching sad movies, and I'm just like now I'm stuck in hell. Like I can't get out of here. It's just too bad. Working through that.
No man, I seek that. Like I don't. There's a movie
So
by Disney. I forget the name of it. It's like the ghost one. It's the one that came out not too long ago.
like in Kanto or something or Luca or
No. It's like a ghostly theme. Like it's like about death.
that wouldn't skip me. I don't know that one.
Soul. I just looked it up.
Oh, Soul. Is that what that's about? Like death or something?
Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay, so the first like maybe 10 minutes, it's pretty like it looks lame and shitty, but it gets deep and dark fast, like really dark and deep.
Oh,
Like after the first 15 minutes, I was like,
yeah.
oh my god, this movie's deep and it's dark and it's fucked up and it's like I'm like this is
Oh,
not a kid's movie. I'm like watching it and I'm like I like it, like I like this dark.
yeah. I think I do that in some variation. Like I'll watch dark movies. Like I do like darker movies, but not like sad necessarily, but just like melancholic. Like I can do melancholy, but not like full on tears. Or like I can do like just angsty, like the kid in the corner who's like just brooding. Like I brood a lot, I think. And so
Okay.
maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still a Disney movie, so it's not,
So yeah, still Disney, but
yeah, it's not gonna be like super fucked. Like the most fucked up movie I've probably seen like recently is probably Rambo. It's Rambo Last Blood. I don't know if
Oh, okay.
have you seen that
Right.
one?
I haven't seen it, no.
No, that movie is fucked up. Like that
Is
is
it really?
that is
That's
like
what the
a
David Shan said. They said that movie is really messed up.
yeah, it's a dark fucked up movie. It's like I watch it and I accepted that this is reality. This kind of fucked up shit does happen. But it's so fucked up, man. Like it's just so fucked up. Like yeah, you should watch it though. But
that movie Midsummer, have you seen that one?
no, I haven't.
I don't recommend watching it. It's about like I had like the biggest freak out / like I'm still terrified of it and haven't processed it, about some girl who like had her parents get killed recently, so she's in a very vulnerable state psychologically. Her piece of crap boyfriend like takes her over to like Sweden with her friends, with like college friends, like some like festival where it's actually a cult, and the idea is that they're trying to trap the people there so they can kill them off one by one in like their ritual. And I did not know what the movie was about going into it. I'm like, oh, I think I heard of this movie. I watched it. Didn't know it was a slasher film. Didn't know it was about this whole thing. And like, I freaked out because I'm like, I bet these cults exist really. And like the people in your trap, and they're going to control you. You can't escape. And I'm like freaking out. And I'm like so terrified just thinking about it. Like, and especially not knowing what I was going to experience going into it, seeing the character slowly get killed off. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it was that movie. I'm getting like shaking now, like thinking about it. It was so scary, dude. I don't care about monsters or nothing, but that was scary.
It's probably real, man. That I think I'm pretty sure that kind of stuff.
Oh my god, I bet it is though. Like there's actually cults out there like that are probably secretly doing stuff like that. Like that scared the heck out of me.
Well, there was one like it's like an American cult. They went to Guyana and then like they had a mass suicide. So like this kind of stuff happens. Like
right, like Jim Jones, yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I mean there are cults, but like I was just thinking about this one specifically. Like the idea was like everything, and then the energy was so upbeat, like it's flowery, and everyone's just like we're all happy here, and we're all smiling, and it's just like eerily hiding the sinister intentions behind it, and that just makes me freaked out even more. I'm like, oh my god, I don't trust any of you. Yeah.
All right, dude. So my last question for you for the interview then is going to be in this topic. So it's the abstract and your fear of the abstract and the abstract controlling you. All right. So like they like to say like, oh, a lot of ESFPs, they believe in ghosts and they're scared of ghosts.
Right.
And ghosts is like an abstract concept. But it doesn't change the fact that it would freak you out. So my first question is that do you believe in ghosts and does it freak you out? And it's like based on the story that you told me about the cult, Because that seems like it's like an NI sinister plan. Like they planned it from the start to lure you to this place,
Yeah.
and to chop you up for this the ritual. It was
Right.
all planned and controlled, and you didn't see it coming because your NI is in the bottom, right? Like
Mhm.
when you told me that story, I'm not as freaked out because I'm lead N, right? So I'm like, no shit, they're gonna chop me up.
Right.
I'm not even
He's like, I'm anticipating it.
I'm not gonna get fooled by that because I know where it's leading because I'm lead N, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I can see how you would get freaked out if you have Ed in the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Just going out there to have fun, and then it turns all dark on you.
yeah, exactly. So let's start with
Yeah.
the ghost stuff first, and then we can go to that one next.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't really believe in those things like ghosts per se, but I've had a secret for a long time that I didn't know was an observer thing, and now that I think about it, it's so stupid. Like, I was way too too old for this. I used to believe that there might be like vampires and like werewolves out there in the wild that we don't know about, and
Yeah,
I was like believing this till I was like 15, like 16, like way too old to believe in that stuff. And I was
yeah,
like, how could there not be? Like, there's probably some kind of ritual or something that happened that made these things real. Like most things we see on TV, like is manifested. So I thought they were actually out there. I haven't encountered one yet. Part of me is like, oh, I don't know, but I don't know. Like that is something I kind of like still believe was a real thing. But what I know, like in my heart of hearts, and people can dispute about this, like I know I believe it. So I believe in God, which means I also know that demons and the devil, all that stuff exists. So I'm mostly focused on like how abstractly those dark spirits control me. Like, and also like more importantly, like getting possessed is like a fear. Like I don't want to ever be possessed. I watch dark movies sometimes and I'm like, I shouldn't have watched that because you're inviting them into your home by watching things that they would like, which is a real thing. So I'm like super superstitious, like don't get anywhere near magic, you know, freaking divination of any kind, like, like
that what do you call that thing that people do, the board,
the Ouija board.
yeah,
I don't,
yeah, yeah.
if a video even comes on with that in the caption or on the title, like in the picture, I'm out. I'm like, nope, you're not coming in here, dude. You're not gonna get me. Like, and it's real, man. People think, oh, there's ghosts. I'm like, that's a demon playing with you. Like, you're just in their whole little game right now. I don't. Hey, freaking scared, dude. And I used to think about people getting possessed. Like I used to, when I was younger, I would hang out and I would get like, I was on drugs a lot, like when I was younger, and I would be hanging out at some party. And I was thinking to myself, I bet they're all gonna like try to rob me after this or whatever, or something like that. Or like I look at them and I think like, what if they all get possessed? And they'll like look at me and try to, I don't know. It's just so stupid, but it doesn't, I'm afraid of the NF for real, dude.
Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah. Well, earlier when you're talking about like vampires and werewolves, I was gonna be like, "Oh, you outed yourself, man. You're clearly a Twilight fan." Like
I may or may not.
yeah.
I love anything supernatural growing up, and then I've gotten older and I'm like so faith driven. I'm like, well, it's still dark, no demons here, dude. So I don't watch it anymore. But like I used to like hardcore love all those stuff, like Vampire Diaries. Like I've been into all those stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Yeah.
just because you don't watch it anymore doesn't mean you can get sucked in if it's like presented to you, kind of like Dave, Dave's
Yeah.
like, if someone tells him about Area 51 and aliens and stuff, he'll get sucked in. And it's like,
Really? I hate to tell him this. No, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but I do a lot of work with like higher end people in the government and stuff like that. And I'm on a lot of NDA, so I cannot say like a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that I didn't think were real that are real. So that's all I can say.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was like,
I believe it.
yeah, it's crazy, man.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming out and doing this interview and like sharing more about yourself. And like, yeah, man, I hopefully that you get a chance to work in that NF sleep last and
I will now after you. No, thanks for having me, bro. I had a good time.
yeah, for sure, man. Take care.
Take care.